We use a lot of acronyms, and some very important ones can shape our retirement resources. In this episode of Tia Simplified, Greg Shepard dissects the workings of a Roth IRA versus a Roth 403b and what you could do with each. I'm Patrice Sikora, and Greg, it's good to be back with you again. How are you doing?
Yeah, doing great, doing great. Could be better. How about yourself?
Could be warmer, I'll put it that way.
Could be warmer, yeah. I understand you just got back from Disney World.
It was cold. It was so cold.
We talked about it before we did this recording, so I've been there a number of times as well. And I think we agreed both of our days are numbered going to the Disney World.
Shh, don't say that. Don't say that.
I don't think the 10-year-olds are listening, but
That's true.
they should be, though, to get them prepared for what lies ahead in their working careers. But nonetheless, that's not what
And think
people
of
are.
how they can tap their retirement savings to go down to Disney.
Oh,
huh?
you need to, right? Gosh,
Yeah.
you might empty about half of it to pay for all that stuff down there. But
Well, back on track
for
here.
another episode, yeah.
Yes, indeed. And we should do that one, too. We were talking about a Roth IRA and a Roth 403b. Let's start from the beginning and tell me the differences between the two.
Okay, so here's what we're going to do, Patrice. I'm not going to get into all the nuances of literally the differences between a Roth 403b and a Roth IRA. Folks out there can Google these things, okay? I'll skim over it because it's not too difficult, and your best friend Google out there is chocked full of all of these answers to the questions one may have. Here's what I want to focus on, okay? I deal a lot, 20 some odd years, dealing a lot with higher education, medical professionals, those that have TIAA accounts. And this isn't necessarily just for the TIA landscape. I'm going to go off on a rant a little bit, so I don't want to sound like the angry guy here on the podcast, but I get frustrated in the sense that, frustrated maybe in a good way. So let me explain. I get, obviously, phone calls, emails from various people across the country. With the evolution or the advent of that YouTube channel, it's really brought on a lot of attention on what I'm doing. So I talk to these folks, and I help all different kinds of people, meaning ages, okay? Younger folks, older folks, and that's a important distinction because obviously, typically, when you're younger, your income is less, okay?
Mhm.
And one of the first questions I ask before we get into the TIA stuff is, tell me about your contributions. Tell me about what you're doing for retirement, and then we'll piggyback off that into the TIA, complexities of the puzzle. And they tell me, and I ask them, hey, are you, with your income, your age, and all that fun stuff, are you contributing to your Roth 403b? And I see deer in headlights. No idea what I'm talking about. And they say, well, I think I might be doing a Roth IRA. Now, no, Roth 403b. And again, deer in headlights. Nobody, I shouldn't say nobody, most folks I talk to do not have a clue that they have a Roth 403b available to them in their retirement plan. Most folks have never even heard of this, okay?
This is not explained to them when they're employed? I mean, first employed?
This is where my frustration lies, okay? So the Roth IRA was incepted back in late 90s, and the Roth 403b was incepted, I don't know, maybe 2006, around there. I may be making that up, but folks out there can fact check. I'm pretty close on those dates. So these
Hello,
things are not
Google.
new.
Hello,
Yeah,
Google.
just go to your best friend Google, and you can fact check me. But they've been around a long time. That's what I'm trying to get at. And I'm sure, no, I'm not sure. Folks may have been told about this, and folks that I ask, okay, let's go back to these examples of these younger folks typically, because I want to emphasize it to them mostly because of their income, because I'll get to that here in just a second about incomes. All I do is bring up their website, of their higher ed institution, and I can find it in 10 seconds if it's allowed to or afforded to them in their retirement plan, of which they've never heard about it before in their life. I've had folks at higher ed institutions for 20, 30 years have no idea what I'm talking about. So to your question, is it told to them? Maybe. I think it's a communication problem. It's not. The problem lies and has always been with the employers almost demanding folks that they be cognizant, they be knowledgeable about their retirement plan. Because I tell you what, these are the folks that are going to call me, email me, 20, 30 years down the road, and we go through this exercise of, do I have enough money to retire? And sometimes I answer, no, you don't. Okay, I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but given your income, given your spending levels and the amount you saved, we got a little bit of the math doesn't math. Okay, so if you were told 20, 30 years ago that you have this awesome, powerful vehicle afforded to you, this Roth 403b, you're doing yourself such a disservice. But I put it on the employer to scream from the rooftops that this is available to them. We're doing our best here, Patrice. We're doing our best to get the word out. And I tell everybody that I come across, are you putting into your Roth 403b? Now, let's back up a little bit. The difference is, the Roth IRA is outside of your employer plan. There are income limits. Oh, again, fact check me on this. Married, filing jointly, I think it's 240, around there, something around there, 240,000. There's phase outs around that income level as well. So if you make more than that, you cannot contribute to a Roth. Single filers, it's less. So like 135 or 140, something like that. You can, again, just Google that. So I have people tell me all the time, well, I can't contribute to a Roth 403b because I make too much money. Nonsense. Yes, you can. There is no income limit in a Roth 403b. You can make $5 million. You can make whatever. It does not matter. You can contribute to a Roth 403b up to the max of a 403b limit that the IRS states for that year. Now, just because you make that much money doesn't mean you should necessarily does it financially make sense to contribute to a Roth 403b? This is a different conversation because, I don't want to get into the weeds too much about the tax implications, but typically your high earners aren't going to be contributing to a Roth 403b. Again, that's more of a one-on-one conversation. This is more of a general landscape around the 403b versus Roth IRA. But I get kind of heated, and because it's such a powerful tool that one could implement for the retirement, that could help them retire maybe a little earlier than they planned on, just by implementing this into their retirement plan a decade ago. Okay. Not only that, Patrice, I'm going to keep going here. You okay with that?
Keep going. I'm listening. I don't want to interrupt. You're on a roll.
Yeah. So not only that, you have the ability in most plans. Now, plan documents will govern, but most plans will allow participants to do Roth conversions inside their retirement plan. I mean, just blows the mind of people because, these high income earners, folks that can't do Roth IRAs, we're doing backdoor Roth conversions, Roth conversions, and all that fun stuff outside of their employer retirement plans. But then some of these, like doctors I deal with, again, it may not financially make sense for some of you out there listening and watching, but for those that are high income earners that want that Roth component, that want to do Roth conversions, you can do it inside your retirement plan. Okay. And I tell you what, if your employer, if you're listening and watching out there, if your employer does not have the Roth 403b afforded to you in your retirement plan, you need to just march right into wherever and demand that they get up to times. And it doesn't cost anything for the employer to implement this. It's just, do they want to get off their what and do what's right for the employees? Okay.
But what makes this 403b so wonderful, so spectacular?
Yeah. Good question. And again, I would emphasize, because for me to answer that right now verbally, it's not a futile exercise, but it takes a lot of math. Okay. Basically what it does though, money goes in after tax. Now your normal 403b money's going in pre-tax, so it lowers your taxable income. Great. That's phenomenal. But what if you could put money in, especially when you're younger, your income is less than what it's going to be in the future, hopefully. That's just the way it works. What if you could put money in after tax? Okay. It grows tax deferred. And then when you retire, because who knows what income bracket it's going to be when you retire, 20 some odd years from now. What if you could pull those monies out tax free? Okay. Yeah. I mean, come on. Even if you're, this is an argument I'm willing to have with anybody out there. Even if you're a high income earner, it still may make sense to do this. Maybe some Roth conversion. Now, Okay, I'm going to keep going here, Patrice, because I did something here in the last few months. I'm super proud of it, and I wish everybody had this tool afforded to them in their higher ed or medical industry employer. One of the top questions I get time and time again, asked various ways, is should I contribute, if they know about the Roth 403B, or after I tell them, should I contribute to this account? If so, how much? All right. And so I can do the silly math in my head or use a calculator or just talk to them and see what they're comfortable with pre-tax and post-tax given their income. I have developed a tool over the last 3 months, not that long, didn't take me that long. But what it does, very simply, it's plug and play. When folks now contact me or I initiate the conversation with them about the 403B Roth, I can plug in income, marriage status, because that has to do with tax filing. Of course, like I said, income, when they plan to retire, inflation, because that's cost of living adjustment for their income, all these inputs. And this tool is so phenomenal. It'll throw out a strategy as to if and how much you should contribute to a Roth 403B and why. Not only that, it'll tell you as your income grows, you could think about doing certain or putting more money into either pre or post tax. And then it calculates conversions along the way while you're still employed. This, Patrice, I don't want to come across like I'm, advocating my own services, but this is a tool that I have never seen out there, and I developed it for the very reason we're talking about right now. And I do believe strongly that every employer out there should have a tool, something like this, afforded to their employees, and they should have special sessions, knowledgeable educational sessions, where folks take advantage of this at their employer level. All right. I'll get off my soapbox here. So there's a lot to unpack
this
there.
is good to know. This is good to know that you have thought this through to the point where you've created the tool.
Yeah. It's and again, it's the catalyst is people. I mean, I've had rocket scientists go through this tool. Okay, utilize this tool. It's not what I'm getting at is very smart, intelligent people out there that don't know. The old adage, you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
And if you don't know it exists, how does one take advantage of it? Okay. I'm not saying everybody, again, I'll reemphasize, may not make financial sense for everybody given income levels. But man, I tell you what, if you're 30 years old, income levels at a certain point, your future self at 60 some odd years old, 70 years old when you retire, will thank you time and time again. Okay. So it's that powerful of a vehicle, investment vehicle to get into for a lot of folks out there listening and watching this.
All right. So you mentioned there are no income limits on the 403B.
No income limits on the Roth 403B.
Right. That's exactly Roth. Yes. I'm shocked at. I mean, that would be great. What about the withdrawal rules?
Yeah. Okay, cool. So 5 years. So you really want to hold on to these monies for 5 years. So and there's penalties if you get it out. I mean, you can get it out, but you just don't really want to. Okay.
Well, 5 years isn't that long, really.
No. And there's many tangents we can go down. So think about this. You just want to hold on to it for 5 years. If you're 30 years old, 40, 50 years old, putting money into this, that's irrelevant because you're not going to take it out anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to hold on to it for 5 years. That's first and foremost. Very simple. Money comes out tax-free. I mean, I can't emphasize that enough. Now, when you run into, I don't want to get into what's called the pro rata rule right now. Okay. We're not going to get into that right now. Okay. So there are some stipulations, some nuances that we're not going to get into that may apply to some folks out there. These have to do with Roth conversions and all that fun stuff. So I urge folks out there, don't go at this alone if you don't know what you're doing. You don't want this to back up on you from a tax perspective, okay? But withdrawal rules, money comes out tax-free. That's what I said. When your future self, when you're retired, is going to thank you time over again, because we talk about diversification all the time within a portfolio. And what I always educate and urge my clients is we talk about investment diversification. Why wouldn't we talk about tax diversification? Okay. So why wouldn't we want pre-tax monies, post-tax monies, and maybe a taxable account, like a brokerage account. So we can choose as to which account we take out from during certain points of our life, maybe
Sure.
pre-Social Security and post-Social Security. Okay. So it's, yeah, it's just a tax-free vehicle on withdrawals. Phenomenal.
But I'm also just surprised that people don't understand they've got this option. That, as you say, we don't know for sure. Maybe they are told and they just don't understand and don't pay
Yeah.
attention to it, and they say, "Well, I know a Roth IRA. I know that," and
Yeah,
just
I think, I
go
mean,
with that.
yeah, Patrice, I can't answer that. I just know a lot of folks, I'm telling you, 9 out of 10 don't know do not know it's afforded to them in their retirement plan. Maybe it was one of those deals when they onboarded when they were 30 years old at their university or
Yeah.
medical employer. Yeah, we got the Roth 403B, and they skipped over to healthcare coverage and something like that, and just in one ear out the other ear. But if the number one question I get, maybe not number one question, but it's part of the overall question. Number one question I get is how much do I need for retirement, and do I have enough for retirement? Those answers, those questions, the answers to those questions would be magnified, meaning the answer would be magnified monetarily if one knew about these accounts earlier in their working career or paid attention. That's why I'm saying these employers, I mean, this sounds dramatic, needs to go to every department and have a 30-minute special session and sit everybody down and say, hey, you all have a Roth 403B available to you. Why is nobody in here doing it? Or
Hmm.
maybe word it a little differently. Everybody in here needs to do it.
Right.
It's almost should be mandated. It's
Well,
at a certain income level. Okay.
if you were to give that presentation and you came into the room and you said, "You should be doing this," what is the first reason you would say? I mean, to give them, "You should be doing this because."
Yeah. Who in here, raise of hand here, who likes tax-free withdrawals? Who would like to
Okay.
take their money out tax-free? Who likes paying taxes? And maybe I'll ask that. So my first question would be, who enjoys paying taxes? Raise a hand, please. And if you raise your hand, I'd say, well, you can leave the room then. You can step out. And everybody else here, who enjoys paying taxes? Not from who enjoys monetarily paying taxes. Okay, nobody enjoys paying taxes. So if you don't enjoy paying taxes, let me show you something. Okay, and it's a lot of times it's easier to show folks visually. Here's your pre-tax. You're putting in whatever X per month. Assume a whatever 6% growth, and here's post-tax. Okay, on extraction, when it comes time to extract these monies, okay, which one over the course of time will be more advantageous financially speaking? Okay, now there's some details I go into. I know folks out there that are more numbers oriented. There are some variables that come into play where it won't be as advantageous. I am cognizant of that. Okay, that's why I emphasize it's not necessarily for everybody, but most folks out there listening and watching, you need to get into this.
What would be a situation where it wouldn't be advantageous?
High earners. So, and I can make an. So that's we'll unpack this a little bit. So right now, if you put money into a Roth Roth IRA or Roth 403B, it's going in after tax. So if I'm making $500,000, right, I'm already in a high income tax bracket. So I would think I would want to shelter my money, my contributions right now because I'm at a high income level. So if I go in post tax, which is a Roth, I'm paying taxes on the monies that are going in to the account at a high income level. Now, conventional wisdom or the theory would say, once I retire, I'm not going to be making $500,000 anymore. Okay. In theory, I'm going to have my house paid off. I'm going to have all this stuff paid off. All right. I'm going to live off Social Security, the money I have in my investment accounts, and maybe a pension or something like that. But it's not going to equal the amount of money I'm making now. Therefore, I'm going to be in a lower tax bracket. Okay. So if I put money in a Roth 403B right now, I'm putting money in at my peak earning years where my income bracket's high. and then I'm taking those monies out tax-free when it comes down the road. If I did pre-tax, okay, I'm going in pre-tax. I'm not paying taxes on the money now, but when I retire, I'm at a lower tax bracket, and I can pull that out at a lower tax bracket. Okay, there's a few more nuances to that. So there's an argument to be made that high income earners shouldn't really financially get into these Roth accounts. I can make an argument to counter that. Okay, but that's not for here. It would take too long, and I'll confuse myself and everybody else getting into it, to be honest. That's what calculators are for.
This is true. And Google.
Very easily done on calculators.
But they need somebody like you to ask the right questions so they know what they're researching and what math they should be doing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's right coming to play. I enjoy doing it. I enjoy these conversations. I can make arguments for both sides. The fact is that nobody knows what future income tax levels are going to be. Nobody knows. Okay. If you think you do, you're wrong. Okay. You're just guessing. It's like knowing where the stock market's going to be 12 months from now. You don't know the answer. You're guessing. You may get it right. You might write a book about it, but we don't know. So it's a futile exercise to try to predict that stuff. So why wouldn't you strategize just for every scenario? Meaning, like I mentioned earlier, you got tax diversification on withdrawals when the time comes. We got pre-tax, we got post-tax, we got a taxable account in the form of a joint account or a TOD. And then you can start strategizing as to which accounts you extract from given where you are in your life, prior and post Social Security.
Greg, how can somebody reach you if they've got some questions on this?
Yeah, I tell you what, a lot of folks have been trying to phone me, which is a great tool, right? But we play a lot of phone tag. I'll give you my phone number, but email is going to be a better way to do it. Phone number 913-521-2381. Email, greg@shepardfinancial.com.
One more time.
And my website. Yeah. And Shepard, by the way, is SHEPARD. Everyone misspells that. Website is safinancialservices.com.
All right, fantastic. So if you want to know about the 403B Roth, this may be the place to go. Get in touch with Greg. Get in touch with Greg. And follow this podcast so you know when a new show is ready for you. Of course, share it with others. And thanks for being with us.
Thank you for listening to TIAA Simplified. Click the follow button to be notified when new episodes become available. Visit our website at www.safinancialservices.com or give us a call at 913-521-2381. And don't forget to click the follow button so you never miss an episode. S&A Financial Services, Inc. is a registered investment advisor. Content presented is for informational purposes only and should not be considered as investment advice or as an offer or solicitation for the sale or purchase of any specific securities, investments, or investment strategies. Always consult with your tax advisor or attorney regarding your specific situation.